This is when the universe comes down and puts her hands on your shoulders and pulls you close and whispers in your ear, you're halfway to dead. The armor is keeping you from growing into the gifts I've given you. That is not without penalty. And this is where everything that we thought protected us keeps us from being the partners, the parents, the professionals, the people that we want to be. Because if I had $1 for every interview I did with a late 20, early 30-year-old that got on the engineer, lawyer, doctor path, because that was the moving escalator for smart people, who was depressed, hated what they did, never even knew that you could be a shoe designer or a casting director or a microphone builder. If I had $1 for every one of those, set for life. I think we're all kind of ordinary people. I get to do extraordinary things, but I think we're all ordinary people. But I think sometimes this world is tough because we shame and diminish ordinary lives or small lives. Mm-hmm. Ordinary moments are, we chase extraordinary moments instead of being grateful for ordinary moments until hard shit happens. And then in the face of really hard stuff, illness, death, loss, the only thing we're begging for is a normal moment. Oh my God, can I please have that ordinary moment back? Can I please hear him come through the screen porch door? Can I please get a call from my mom or a crazy text? Then we want the ordinary moments. But in them, that ordinariness can almost be, for those of us who haven't found a way to love it in ourselves, repulsive. People always say, where's the line between embracing imperfection and vulnerability and kind of our humanity and striving for excellence? And for me, I always think, where is the line between excellence and beauty in all things and perfectionism that is paralyzing? No work gets out. Mm-hmm. So there's always, where's the line between my perfectionism and my being my best self? The only thing I've come to so far that has been the shift for me it's a midlife shift. I think it's a midlife shift for everyone. And it's taken me a good 5 years in midlife. I will determine the line. You will not determine the line for me. So I know that for me, it doesn't matter what I'm achieving or accomplishing. If I'm not eating in a way that makes sense for me, working out and sleeping, that it doesn't matter. So for whether you're saying, boy, you need to, lose 30 pounds, or you're on the side where you're healthy at every, whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't care what you think on either side. What I think is, I know I need to work out 5 days a week. I know that I need to eat this way. I know I need to write down what I'm eating. So for me, the day I reclaimed that line as internally set, not externally set, was a huge changer for me. I don't think you can truly change for the better in a lasting, meaningful way unless it is driven by self-acceptance. The other thing that is just so shocking to me about complacency and self-acceptance is I don't think I have ever come across a single person who was complacent, driven by self-acceptance. What differentiates us as a social species is the need to be seen and known and loved, and the need to see and know and love others. And no one rides for free. We all come into this adulthood with hard stuff. Mm-hmm. And what I would say is true about complacency, and 95% of what I see that people call pathology is it's armor. It's not, it's armor. It's behaviors and ways of thinking that I've developed to protect myself from being hurt. What I would say to people is we all grew up and experienced to varying degrees trauma, disappointment, hard stuff. We armored up, and at some point, that armor no longer serves us. And so what I think I would say to that person is, how is not talking about this serving you? And now the weight of the armor is too heavy, And it's not protecting you, it's keeping you from being seen and known by others. And so this is, just tell you quintessentially, this is the developmental milestone of midlife. From late 30s to through probably your 60s, this is the question. This is when the universe comes down and puts her hands on your shoulders and pulls you close and whispers in your ear, I'm not fucking around. You're halfway to dead. The armor is keeping you from growing into the gifts I've given you. That is not without penalty. Time is up. So this is what you see happen to people in midlife. And it's not a crisis. It's a slow, brutal unraveling. And this is where everything that we thought protected us keeps us from being the partners, the parents, the professionals, the people that we want to be. And I've only seen, this is a fork in the road. I've only seen 2 responses to this visit from the universe. Well, there was my response, which I was like, screw you, bring it. Like, you think you can best me? And then it was just one nightmare situation after another until, you're not going to win that fight. I think if you say, you know what, I'm not going to do it, then you've got to double down. These are the people that walk through the world, double down on their own shit, in denial, cheek squeezed as they walk, and cause so much pain in the world. Because it is so much easier to offload pain than to feel pain. And so you really have a choice in midlife. I'm not saying just pull off all the armor and streak through Austin, because I think you can replace the armor with something. I think it's curiosity is what you replace it. You just become very curious about yourself, about the world. Why did I react that way? Curiosity is really the superpower for the second half of our lives, because it keeps us learning, it keeps us asking questions, and it increases our self-awareness. But when you see, and I think it's really hard because, I'll walk into a situation and there'll be the person who invited me is usually the CEO. And then you'll have like the cross-armed, pissed off, clenched cheek, like F you looking person, usually in operations or technology, and then they're like, what's the business case for you being here? Here's our stock price. Here's what's going on. Here's our valuation. Like, what do you need? And then, the CEO usually say, fucking hate each other. And this can only last for so long. Like, it's the end of every great band, right? Like, This is going to come to an end and it's going to be terrible. And so, I don't know. I think you can't pull it all off at once. You have to, for a lot of people, for all of us, there's trauma. And people are like, no, there's not trauma for all of us. There's trauma for, people who have been abused physically, sexually, emotionally. There's trauma for people of color and people who have been on the margins. There's trauma for all of us. It's just different levels of trauma. To escape childhood with nothing is, I haven't met that person yet. So the trauma stuff, literally the trauma message in our body is, you take this armor off, we die. So you protect us at all costs and leave this on. A lot of that work has to be done with a therapist. Emotion and cognition, undefined and unexplored, drive every decision you make. You either develop self-awareness or these things control you.
Yeah.
It's really, I have to say that it can, as someone who chooses affect words carefully, it can be terrifying for people. But rarely does anyone around them who knows them, like you with your friend, say, oh my God, I'm shocked to hear this when the reveal comes out.
Yeah.
You're like, your whole life has been defined by this. It was like my daughter when she went to high school. She's a junior now in college, but we sat down with her and said, the number of AP courses that you'll take will be limited by your time. You won't go to bed past 10. You will not miss a single dance. You will do something every weekend with friends. We will not participate in the race to nowhere. Like, you don't need to graduate with 40. And she's a super academic kid. She's like, what? I'm like, she's like, but I need to take this and I need to take this. I'm like, it's not going to work that way. And then when she got to college, we were like, we're not paying for it if you already know what you want to be. You're 18. Take every class that's interesting to you. Learn who you are. Because if I had $1 for every interview I did with a late 20, early 30-year-old that got on the engineer, lawyer, doctor path, because that was the moving escalator for smart people, who was depressed, hated what they did, never even knew that you could be a shoe designer or a casting director or a microphone builder. If I had $1 for every one of those, like...
Set for life.
Set for life. Yeah. And I said, you need to explore. But, and she's like, that's so cringy, Mom. That's so cringy. Like everyone that freshman orientation knows exactly what they're going to be, where they're going to go to grad school. I'm like, that's great. That's not the way we work. And so, I'll call her. I'm like, what are you taking? She's like, taking a class on Black Power movements, Germany in the 20th century, statistics and multivariate analysis. And I'm like, great. She's like, as it turns out, I don't think I want to do this and I don't want to do that. And I'm like, super valuable. And she's like, no, are you sure it's as valuable as knowing what you do want to do? I'm like, oh yeah, knowing what you don't want to do, you get to save all the part in your 30s and 40s where you hate work, you're drinking heavily, like you get to save a lot of that. Like, figure it out. Nothing's wasted. Yeah, I graduated from college when I was 29. I was like, go see the world. Get a job, wait tables. Everyone I know is better at who's waited tables, better human being.